But so this is interesting, right? We've talked about red crystals already. Red crystals are potentially the source of the corruption. And more on the path ahead. He scrambled to the top of the hill, and the other side those red crystals stretched for as far as the eye could see. Some were as big as a dwarf, bigger even. He was awestruck. Never had he seen such beauty in all his years, and he fancied himself an expert on the matter. Hesitantly he touched one of the bigger stones, and a ripple pulsed through his skin in response. It felt wrong in all the wrong ways, and he backed away from them, and they seemed to beat with life. We've seen people previously, we've seen people fighting each other, um, or we've seen people defending against crazed humans, and these crazed humans have red crystals growing out of their skin. Um, so these red crystals seem to have something to do with the corruption, clearly. And they are found in the ground. So if we go down here and we pull up this map, this is the map of APOC. We have a Harbinger crash or something Harbinger related down here. And I have not actually been to that area. I haven't played APOC, so I'm not sure what's down there and what exactly that means. Originally, the Harbingers are supposed to be these glowing balls of light. So I don't, and then you're supposed to also be able to go inside them and fight things. But up here we have something called Crystal Canyons, which is a mine full of red crystals. These red crystals are something I think we're probably gonna see again. And I'm wondering, we just got, where are we here? We just got down to here and we hear, this seems to be like the first time they're finding all these red crystals out in the world, which potentially means maybe they found the red crystals and then they started mining them because they looked pretty. And then suddenly, as those were distributed, people bought them, they were used as currency and things like that. People started coming in contact, and that's what started to spread the corruption. Do we know whether the red crystal is the direct influence to the corruption or its byproduct? We were talking about. I don't know if we do know. Ask. It could be the byproduct of something, but it seems to be the actual spread of the corruption, right? So ask. I would think these red crystals might be. It seems like with the when he touches it and there's a ripple of pulse and there's red crystals on people's skin that feel that become corrupted. Then also, as I said, it seems like just being around them might make you corrupted because, I mean, this reference to spinning around and someone pointing a crossbow at his head, this could be something that just happens naturally, like maybe he swindled someone. But this seems like some kind of grudge. It was super manifested by the fact he was around these red crystals. Where the red crystals come from, that's a good question, but I think the crystals could be the source of spreading it in general, right? But anyway, the person talking is Esk. For those who don't know, Esk is just starting to stream, so he's a great guy. Feel free to check him out at twitch.tv/Easkeruth. And give him a follow and give him some love because he's a pretty smart guy, knows a lot about ashes and all that. We've been having some great discussions, so definitely check him out. And then Raceler will check out this video once he's done there.
Okay, so there's a huge similarity in between talking about the red crystals in Ashes of Creation and talking about red lyrium in Dragon Age. Now, lyrium is the main source of magic found in the Dragon Age world, and red lyrium is the darker side of it. It's what's considered the raw form of lyrium, which is a more potent and addictive one, and it causes aggression in people and causes them to act out against other people besides their will. In Dragon Age Inquisition specifically, there was a lot of mining going on for this red lyrium, and anyone that came into direct contact or was in the vicinity and smelled like the air around the red crystals, they would get these delusions to themselves.
Yeah.
And it could be anything between delusions of grandeur to hyper aggression towards their friends.
Yeah, and like so what we just read with the dwarf kind of turning around and somebody like aiming a crossbow at him. makes it seem like it's amplifying certain negative thoughts or emotions, right? Like what your standard thought of corruption would be. But you did bring up a good point. I wonder if there will be some kind of like positive source of the crystal, right? Some non-corrupt source of that crystal.
Right, that's what I was trying to get at, is whether or not the red crystal was a byproduct. Because if it's a byproduct, then that means that something caused the original crystal to turn red. But
Okay.
in the Dragon Age world, red lyrium is the raw form of lyrium, which is the magic crystal in comparison to Ash's creation.
Yeah. So let me watch. I think this video shows us red crystal. That's why Raceware was doing it. Let me play that, and then I want to show you guys something else that I know. Okay, not there. 131, he said. It's probably getting right around here. It doesn't give me the actual timestamp on the... Okay, red crystals. Some kind of corrupted egg or something? The essence is present in all magic. Divine, corrupt, it doesn't really matter. You can pervert the essence to bring about types of magic that are not divine. Um, so maybe the crystals are just straight condensed essence, and then what kind of magic the crystals are is determined by like kind of the cover or something like that.
You mean like a lightsaber crystal?
Kind of like that. The color is a side effect of the type of magic that is condensed within the essence crystal.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're getting at. Like for example, if it was a blue crystal, it'd be for like a frost mage.
Yeah, something like that. And we don't know all the types of magic either, right? Sounds like we've heard of divine magic and corrupt magic from this reference. Maybe, I mean, I don't know if it would be frost magic or elemental magic. I don't know if there's an overarching thing that frost magic falls into.
Right.
What I was looking for was Steven specifically talks about basically the lore and the myth behind a mage's staff and why mages carry staves. And it's actually the fact that it's not actually a staff, it is a crystalline or condensed form of essence. And then so craftsmen create this, and the easiest way to get it to condense and stabilize is in a long, thin rod. So they actually have these things, and then to protect the crystalline form of essence, they actually encase it in often wood or sometimes metal. And that is the lore and the myth behind why mages have staves, but it's actually condensed essence. So I'm wondering if corruption is like the opposite of essence in some way. I'm wondering what the influence or the what these red crystals have to do with like raw essence like that. Maybe it is the condensed version of corruption, right?
Because I mean, anyone who normally follows any sort of fantasy setting would consider necromancy a corrupt magic. It's
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
evil. It usually involves evil practices, dark magics.
So for
But
D&D, clerics have death magic and it's not considered corrupt.
exactly, that's where I was about
And
to go with that.
yeah, and and the way and the reason that necromancers in this game come from a cleric off spec, right? Makes me think that potentially death magic is not this evil or corrupt thing. It's just, I mean, it's all, so it may not be evil or corrupt magic. That doesn't mean it's not viewed with a stigma, right? Because if you're raising things from the dead, a lot of people don't like that. That doesn't necessarily make it evil, but it gives it a stigma. And then a lot of people who do use that type of magic do evil things as well. It's that idea of magic is a tool, not necessarily a good or evil thing. Although maybe corruption is something that is just pure evil, whereas most other magic is just a tool.
A super interesting point. I think basically what you were trying to get at was magic is based on intention, not the tools that are given.
Yes. So, like, what? Yeah, exactly. Magic is based off of intention, but except for corruption, because corruption warps your intention, right? 'Cause that's what it
Right.
seems to be happening. Like most people would not want to kill their friends and neighbors, but once they become corrupt, they turn on people. Entry 3, Necromancer. Crouched over her collection of corpses, the necromancer Callista eagerly awaited what came next. But the waiting was interminable, and in the meantime, her nails had all but bitten to the quick. Not sure what. Meantime, her nails had all been bitten to the quick. Is quick an actual word for your nails? Did not know that. I assume that's like down to the point where it starts getting bloody. It would not be the first time. Callista was not very good at waiting. The very thought of falling in this, the deranged child's demands, struck fear into her little black heart. She only hoped her patron would not seek vengeance for this betrayal. Was this a betrayal, anyway? What helped her helped him. Such thoughts were packed away for later, as with a grasp and a moan, the dead had risen. All but the exception of two, panic set in. This would not do. She poked and prodded her unwoken chosen with tendrils of unseen essence, but to no avail. The woman threw her hands up in a defeat with a string of muttered curses. It was in that very moment that the color finally flushed the corpse's cheeks. Then one slumped over and wailed, taken aback. In the very best of times, Callista was ill-equipped to handle human emotions, let alone those of the reanimated. She said, "Oh, stop blubbering. Adana wanted 12 of her champions, and so 12 I must give her. It would have been my head in the basket, not yours." Okay, this is actually a really good thing. We were talking about earlier, right? If necromancy was evil magic. Is a necromancer a bad thing? And in this realm, potentially, because, and when you think about necromancer, it's a summoner mixed with a cleric. So necromancer is not necessarily evil. In this instance, it doesn't seem to be rising as a corpse. It seems to actually be returning a corpse to life. And that makes me think that potentially a necromancer isn't necessarily just this raise dead skeletons and all of that. Necromancers potentially can have like a life aspect, a life and a death aspect. Their death side, or they can raise like put life back into corpses with their life side. Entry 2, A Fond Farewell. You stubborn old goat, why didn't you listen? Dill just cradled the corpse of Angus. For the first time in decades, the folds of the old dwarf's face were wet with grief. A frustrated scream of anger bubbled in his throat. Dilgis stood, unsheathed his hammer, and swung at the red crystals that started this fight. As they shattered into thousands of reflective shards, he winced. He pressed his hand upon his side, blood. Angus's crossbow bolt had ripped a hole in his side. It looked bad and felt so much worse. Damn fool, damn crystals, he laughed in helplessness as he felt his life ebbing away. He stumbled like a drunk sailor towards his place of rest at the side of Mary. While the wails of his loyal ram filled the canyons, the dwarf started to wonder as the crystals he had shattered slowly regrew and were then made whole. Disappointment and consternation were the last things Dilgis Derryboo felt before the twinkle in his eye went out. And they do start mining them because we know in APOC itself, in the map, this crystal canyon that he has found is a mine now. So they did start mining these crystals that can't really be destroyed and keep regrowing. So who knows what that exactly means for the world.